speedy revolt. I am SYED SHABAHAT and you're watching Fault Lines. Russia has started re-emerging on the international canvas once again as a strong military power. A power that is engaging United States and NATO in many theaters, including Ukraine. That has caught attention of many in the world. As told by the Western media outlets, Ukraine has become the flashpoint that can take the peace of the entire world down and can push us to another great war. Meanwhile, United States and European Union have also started considering to put a new regime of sanctions on Russia. Russia's relationship with European Union and United States has not been comfortable as well. At the brinks of all these developments, Prime Minister of Pakistan Imran Khan has decided to visit Russia and to meet President Vladimir Putin. Both the countries have a great diplomatic history. Both the countries have shared many concerns and have done collectively a lot of work in Afghanistan's settlement as well. Our team has prepared a package. Watch the package before I bring my today's guest to the program.
Amid fluctuating geopolitical currents, Islamabad Kremlin cultivated extremely pragmatic ties owing to converging interests of regional peace, security and development. The comprehensive expansion of their relations embodies multipolar trends and Russia's rising role in balancing the supercontinent's affairs. Signaling shared vision of regional security, Pakistan and Russia have been closely coordinating on Afghanistan in three primary platforms: extended Troika, the Moscow peace talks, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Prime Minister Imran Khan is about to embark on a very important visit to Moscow at the invitation of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Matters relating to enhancing cooperation in the spheres of economy, trade, defense and energy, $3 billion Pakistan Stream gas pipeline project, the Afghan issue, and others will be discussed during this momentous bilateral engagement. During his visit to the Eurasian great power, Premier Imran Khan is poised to share Pakistan's pivot towards geo-economic paradigm, which renders economic security at the forefront of its national security vision. The strategic energy cooperation through the impending construction of the Pakistan Stream gas pipeline, which will serve as the flagship project of Russian-Pakistani economic ties, will be the key highlight of this visit. Earlier, military diplomacy represented a milestone in the Russian-Pakistani rapprochement, as exhibited by Russian-Pakistani joint anti-terrorist drills last year, driven primarily by shared Afghan emanating terrorist and other unconventional security threats. Building upon the new model of regional engagement pioneered in April after Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov paid his first trip to Pakistan in 9 years, it's vividly clear that both Pakistan and Russia are moving beyond outdated old Cold War era stereotypes.
Excellency, Tanira Ganesh, welcome to my program.
Thank you.
And we are having this conversation at a time that is very important. The entire Western media is telling us a story, and the story is that there are 150,000 Russian forces, some on the border of Russia, some on the border of Belarus, and encircling Ukraine for an all-out invasion, for which NATO is trying her level very best to secure Ukraine. What are your thoughts on it, sir?
I think that this is a mispresentation of facts. I think that what Moscow is saying, what our president is saying, and I think this is the case if we're considering the facts, is that this is not about Ukraine. The crisis in Europe is a crisis about the security architecture in Europe, which is harmful and detrimental to Russia's security interests. So the Western view presented to the public is that there is a confrontation going on between Russia and Ukraine, and that Russia wants to make Ukraine take some wrong decisions. And our perspective is that the issue is broader. We want new security architecture in Europe, and we think that this situation, when the military infrastructure of a military alliance is moving towards our borders, is unacceptable. And frankly, I don't understand why the West cannot give necessary guarantees for our safety. This is something strange, because they are saying that this is a defensive alliance. And I think that it's pretty natural that we want some guarantees for our safety.
But Excellency, just back in 2014, Crimea was annexed, and this was this is considered to be an invasion on one part of Ukraine, and that is actually the major point that the United States has and NATO has kept in front of the rest of the audience. That is the leagues of the nation or United Nations, and they say a similar invasion is planned this time too. So does that not qualify to be a substantial argument?
I think that if we get to 2014, there were two events.
All right.
The first event, which our Western colleagues conveniently omit, is a coup, an unconstitutional coup in Kiev. Despite written guarantees from three countries, France, Germany, and Poland. And after that, after we had this first event, an unconstitutional coup, and silence from the West that followed, despite their guarantees, we had this reunification of Russia and Crimea. We don't call it annexation. We call it a reunification, because Crimea is populated by Russian speakers mostly. They had a referendum. They appealed to the Russian Federal Parliament to be part of the Russian Federation, and we agreed. So there are different versions of that. The West calls that annexation, and we call that a reunification with our brothers.
Are you categorically denying that Russia has no plans whatsoever to invade Ukraine?
I would be insincere if I told you that I know the plans of our military, because I am here in Islamabad and I'm ambassador. But my president says that he has no plans to order any kind of military operation against Ukraine, and we as Russian citizens believe our president.
Excellency, what can be done to avert the crisis? Because if, God forbid, a situation escalates from here, it will have consequences for all the world, for all the countries. Because Russia is an extremely powerful country, and so is the NATO alliance. That is equipping Ukraine with weapons. I will not use the word of mass destruction, but with weapons. So what can be done, in your view, to de-escalate from here?
In my view, we should implement what we agree on. We were promised verbally that NATO would not expand an inch if the Soviet Union agreed to reunification of Germany. Those were verbal guarantees. Since that time, there were 5 waves of NATO expansion. You can check it up. You can use even Google. You can use whatever. These are facts that the military infrastructure of this alliance was moving towards the Russian borders. Another document is, as far as I remember, there was the Istanbul document of 1999. And paragraph 8 of this document says three things. One, that any country has a right to that or this or that security alliance. This is what our Western colleagues usually single out. But in this very paragraph, and it's open, so our viewers can read it if they want to, there are two other things. That you cannot build up your security at the cost of security of other countries. And three is that in OSCE space, no state, no group of states, or no organization can have preeminence in matters of security. So if a person wants, he can look it up, him or herself, and this is just facts. These are documents. So coming back to your question, sir, I would say that all we got to do is just implement what we agree upon. And another thing for us, of course, that I, as a Russian citizen, think that we should not believe anymore those, verbal assurances if they are being given. So only written documents.
Or the rosy promises made by NATO.
Yeah, because we cannot, be satisfied with, these smiles and, encouragements, verbal encouragements. So we got to see what is being done practically.
Excellency, just for the sake of my viewers, what the Excellency is referring to is that with the disintegration of USSR in the first wave, many countries that were part of the alliance that USSR had made Warsaw Agreement were added into NATO, and then Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia in 2004 were made part of NATO, and now they are moving towards Ukraine, and that certainly is a security concern as well as a violation of the agreement that they have made. Is this the point, sir?
If we're talking about fundamental things, I have a question why NATO just exists, because there is no Warsaw Treaty organization anymore. So against whom this NATO alliance exists? This is my question. And if it's a defensive alliance, why we hear that they bombed this or that country? So in 1999 there was an operation just in Europe against Yugoslavia. Then they had this Iraq invasion, then Libya, then Arab Springs, then to say nothing of Afghanistan, and to say nothing of this very peaceful rhetoric from the American administration that unless if you didn't support us, we would bomb you into the Stone Age. So these are facts. So how can we say that this is a defensive alliance? So this is the problem, that we feel an existential threat.
Excellency, but this is not only the military threat that Russia is facing at the moment. There are two more tentacles of it, and I would take your comments on both of these tentacles one by one. The first and foremost is the economic sanctions. That is a tool that United States and allies have used against many adversary nations, and now they are threatening Russia for dire consequences too. Russia certainly being a part of the global community must be evaluating the cost of these sanctions. What are your thoughts on these sanctions that Russia is being frightened of?
I will try to explain my personal logic, because I cannot speak for every Russian. I think that two things are certain. First thing is that we will protect our security. I am proud to say that I spent 2 years of my life in the Russian Navy. And I can tell you that words, honor and readiness to sacrifice for the country are not hollow words for any Russian. So we will be secure. My second belief is that we will not experience hunger. So in this, we can be, we can feel comfortable. We got basic foods. We got a developing, fast developing, rapidly developing agriculture. So there will be no hunger. As for, comforts, such as they are saying that they would cut off, export of mobile phones or computers or something like this, we have gotten accustomed to. Yes, it will be something which is not comfortable, and we will have to get used to this, and we will have to find some other means of replacement. But I would prefer my country to be independent, and maybe this is even good in a longer perspective, because anyway we got to change this paradigm. Otherwise, this diktat will be forever. What I hope as a citizen, I repeat, not as an ambassador, but as a citizen, I hope that we will respond. And I hope that we have certain means of responding so that those who try to punish us punish themselves. I do know that we have certain means, like also cutting off some export or just getting out of certain negotiations important to the West, and acting. We can also we could also, for example, stop observing this patent law, just copy the products. But again, I repeat that these are my personal views.
Your personal views as a Russian.
So, but I think that it's time we broke this pattern. It should stop. And maybe it will be a shock. But it's better than, long and lengthy, suffocation. So this would be my answer.
Excellency, this wonderful conversation will continue, but ladies and gentlemen, we will have to take a break and join you back after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and the conversation with His Excellency Danila Ganesh, the Ambassador of Russia, continues. Excellency, there is one more challenge that almost all the major countries that stand against the unipolar order of the world are facing, and that is a challenge of narrative. The rhetoric being given by the Western media outlet is so overwhelmingly occupying all the digital space. Well, again, digital space is a part of it. That the narrative of the anti-United States or the forces that do not see on issues eye to eye with the United States is not getting enough place. China is also making the similar complaints that it's being there's a lot of propaganda against China. And in this recent episode, we are seeing that the entire Western media is at least showing the anti-Russian side of the facts. I'll not call it a propaganda right away, but so don't you think this language barrier and this lack of influence in the soft power is serving as one of the major bottlenecks for countries like Russia?
I think this is a problem, a universal, a global problem, lack of free media anywhere in the world. And I am deeply, disappointed that Western media that used to be relatively free are not free anymore. Formally, they are independent. They got owners, and the state cannot tell the owners what to do. But those owners impose certain views on their employees. So when you read an American paper or when you watch an American channel, you understand and you feel political affiliations. Everybody knows that the New York Times is mostly expressing the views of the Democratic Party. Or Fox News, it's a pro-Republican channel. Yes, I do not agree with those who say that there is some kind of formal violation of this constitutional principle of expression of freedom of expression. But in fact, the owners of the mainstream media take sides. So my point is that even in countries which are considered and believed to be free, there is no free media. And you got either worldwide, you got either state or corporate control. This is a problem. So media, mass media gives a distorted picture. I don't know what to do because it's not my profession. But I sincerely believe that to understand what really is happening, you got to ask yourself what the motive could be behind this or that action. For example, if a media blames Russia for shooting down an international airliner over Ukraine, it was 2014 or 2015. You got to ask yourself, why would Russia do that? And you got to ask some natural questions. For example, why did Ukraine not close the airspace? If you know a couple of languages, you can also compare what the Russian media says or English-speaking media says, and to analyze. So to get to the truth is requiring an analysis from a person. This is my point. So two things: no free media, everything is distorted and biased. And the other thing is to understand whether it's true or not, you got to look for a motive and you got to analyze. And there is another thing. You got to also look at your own experience. For example, if we're talking about Pakistan, I think it would be easy for me to convince that the Western mainstream media can be not objective, because they can ask themselves how Pakistan is being presented in the world media. Also, when I try to understand whether it's true or not, whether it's fake or not, I can also talk to people I believe, let us say Americans. I got some friends who I can ask whether it's true or not, and they wouldn't lie to me. This is basically a drawback of the world of today.
Let's move forward. Excellency, United States and former USSR had very bad relationships. They contended each other. The world saw an era of Cold War. USSR disintegrated, comes in Russia, and President Putin, in a way or another, with different portfolios at different times, have been a major center of power throughout this time. So my common sense says that the rivalry between the two nations should have ended at that point, when Russia was in no position to economically or to militarily challenge the American position in many areas. Fact of the matter is that Russia is still a nightmare for not only the United States, but for allies. You being a seasoned diplomat, do you think, is it a failure of the diplomacy from both the sides that the things could not be calmed down and both the nations could not come together? Or do you believe there are innate problems in the political systems of the two countries that do not allow them to go hands in hands together in the objectives?
I think that was a political decision which defined a course of action. I mean that in the beginning of 1990s, there was a debate in the United States. There were two options. Option one, to treat Russia as a real partner and a real ally. Like after World War II, Marshall Plan, etc. And there was option two, to try to contain Russia forever. And if that would be possible, to somehow disintegrate this large state. So this debate ended with the adoption by a U.S. administration of a doctrine called Paul Wolfowitz Doctrine. And that doctrine stated that there could be no other major competitor of the United States. So the U.S. should always remain the sole superpower. And if we're talking about former USSR, Russia, it should be always weak. It should be always contained. So that is what they're talking. This confrontation was basically a U.S. decision, which felt that the better course for it would be to contain Russia. But I think that that was a strategic miscalculation, because I don't know why. Just because Russia probably is too big. That we got a lot of intellectual potential. I don't know why, but that was a mistake in my view.
Excellency, would you allow me to counter argument on that and say, as a returning question, that even European countries or the European Union at large, that primarily relies on the Russian gas resources, haven't been able to come very close to Russia. I mean, United States, you just mentioned, they decided to remain the sole superpower. But many countries in Europe would not have seen the industrial progress without the reserves of Russia that they have been capitalizing on. So coming back to it, is it not a failure of diplomacy?
Diplomacy is a two-way traffic. Russia was open to cooperation for two reasons. Reason one, we believed that democracy won in our country. Mikhail Gorbachev won. Democratic values won. We did not perceive that that was American victory. And reason two, it's a two-way traffic. If you're open and the other side is not, you can do nothing about it. So basically that was not our choice. That was the choice of a US administration to contain Russia. As for Europe, I think they're feeling pretty comfortable, having given their sovereignty to the Americans, because basically in strategical issues, the US is calling the shots.
Even for Europe?
For Europe. I'm talking about Europe. The US is calling the shots. And for us, it's pretty strange. For Europeans, it may be natural, because they're talking about this, collective West, solidarity, and so on. As for our interaction with Europe, I would say that I do not agree with this assessment that they are always a blessing to Russia, and we should be grateful to them for them buying our resources. So it's a pretty strange and distorted logic. So because the fact is that we sell our gas, their industry prospers, and they pay in hard currency, and we use that currency for their products. So I wouldn't say that
so it's a win-win situation.
It's a mutually beneficial cooperation.
Excellency, we'll take a break here, and ladies and gentlemen, this wonderful conversation will continue after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and this wonderful conversation continues with the Ambassador of Russia. Excellency, coming back to subcontinent, you have stayed here for quite a long time, and you understand the dynamics of the Russian diplomacy in subcontinent better than anyone else who might have been here in my program. So to begin with, we as two states have had our highs and lows. And would you agree with me if I say that that the Afghan war was the lowest ebb of our relationships in our history?
I would say that the Russian invasion of Afghanistan was a mistake, but this is my understanding, so there may be some other views. I think that it showed that no country can conquer Afghanistan. So we should have learned from the British, and the Americans should have learned from us. So as soon as you make an invasion of Afghanistan, you're doomed to fail.
But Excellency, it's not only that. I mean, both the countries have, you agree with me on that? We had a different diplomatic past, and there were some memories that we don't cherish today. Do you agree with me on that?
I agree partly. I do know that Pakistan and Russia were in different camps. But at the same time, I do know many colleagues of mine who used to work in Islamabad, and they told me that even at the time, in those times, the relations between our country were constructive. It's amazing. And people working in Islamabad didn't feel any animosity from the Pakistanis.
You mentioned camps, Your Excellency. And so I, being a media person, can take the liberty and make it a bit open. Pakistan was a part of the United States camp, and our immediate neighbor India was a part of Russian camp. That had consequences for us as a nation as well. But India has started migrating out of Russian camp and is now a major ally of United States. And this is not just a bookish ally or a theoretical ally. India is looking after the stakes and interests of United States in this entire region, and yet they're great partners with Russia. You have just provided them with S-400 missiles, which the United States has not allowed to any one of her partners. Don't you think it actually makes the diplomatic situation between Pakistan and Russia a bit more difficult?
I wouldn't say so. If it were difficult, the Prime Minister of the country wouldn't be visiting our country. Because he is not only a hero of cricket, but he is also a very seasoned politician, philanthropist, and he is an honest person. So he wouldn't compromise on his principles. I would say that Pakistan understands that we are having close ties with India traditionally. And we are trying to develop the relations between Pakistan and Russia, not to slow down the relationship between Russia and India. And another thing is that India is in no one's camp. India is in India's camp. And the Americans maybe understand, maybe they don't understand that India is always playing their own game.
You say this despite the fact that India is a major ally against China, and it's joined hands with the United Kingdom, Australia.
I think India is playing the role of a U.S. ally till the time it feels it is not beneficial for India. As soon as India feels that there is some kind of harm in having close strategic relationship, it will break those relationships. My point is that India is always independent. You cannot own India. This is a feature of that country.
Excellency, how do you see the relationship between Pakistan and Russia? And just recently, your foreign minister was here. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi hosted the event. There were diplomatic talks between the two sides. Now the Prime Minister is going, just a day ago, Prime Minister spoke with President Putin and once again requested him to consider visiting Pakistan. All of this together looks like a wonderful time has come in the diplomatic relationship. We are maybe taking off or already have started taking off. What's your take on that, sir?
We have excellent relations with Pakistan under any administration. It doesn't matter who is in the Kremlin or who is in the Prime Minister's office. Under any administration, there used to be a consensus. I'm talking about the Russian times, that we got to have equal, mutually beneficial relationship. This is what is going on. And this is another proof that the Prime Minister of a great country is visiting Moscow. So I'm very happy about it.
And do you think that the timing of this visit is even more exciting because at the moment many nations are looking toward Russia as an adversary?
It's up to them. I would say that as a Russian citizen, again, this is my personal view, is that we should not pay too much attention to what others think. We gotta do what we have to do, and Russia is like a train. Nothing can stop this train except Russia itself.
But Excellency, my question was, do you appreciate the timing of the visit that Prime Minister has chosen?
I don't think that either side would pay much attention to what was going on beyond our bilateral relationship. And I think this is one of the good things, that our relationship is not dependent on political expediency.
Excellency, when it comes to the subcontinent, when it comes to South Asia, the diplomatic picture or the strategic picture of South Asia cannot be completed without mentioning Afghanistan. Not only ever since United States has left Afghanistan, there has been a political turmoil in the country, which, by the way, by taking over of Taliban has almost vanished. But there has been also an economic problem that is going on, which has been a concern for both the countries. Russia has also been a part of the diplomatic peace process. Tell me more about it, sir.
First of all, I think that we gotta try to find a solution to the Afghan problem through dialogue. And I'm very glad that this confrontation, at least military confrontation, ended. There are different formats of interacting with the Afghan authorities. And one of the formats is Russia, Pakistan, China, and the United States. So this is one of the formats, promising formats. A dialogue is going on, and let's hope that it will bring some fruitful results.
Excellency, very well said, but the problem that we are seeing today is the economic miseries of this country. Unfortunately, as of now when we speak, no solution exists. United States has decided not to unfreeze the money that they have frozen. It is the Afghan money, and the banking channels will not operate. This will certainly have its impact on the peace of the country. And on one side sits Pakistan, and on the other side there is the entire Central Asian Republic. And all these Central Asian republics, to my understanding, are the soft belly of Russia. Are you concerned as a diplomat with the economic failure of Afghan state?
I am worried, not only as a diplomat. I am worried as a person, because I understand that the winter is harsh. A lot of people, are suffering from hunger, from the extreme colds. Definitely, urgent humanitarian assistance is needed. I do understand that there is also a growing realization in Washington that something must be done. And we're working with international partners, including the Americans, for the sake of extending some humanitarian assistance to the Afghans. But at the same time, you're absolutely correct, sir, that the money is still frozen. The Afghan money is still frozen. This is one thing. And the other thing is that the main burden and the main responsibility, financial responsibility, is with the Americans, because they were the occupying force. That was not us. So probably this would be my answer.
And with this entire thing not settling down, the stakes are very high for Russia as well as for Pakistan. You agree with me on that?
The stakes are high for the whole region, because Afghanistan is a very important country, and instability in Afghanistan may spill over. And it could be felt not only in the immediate neighborhood, but also globally. If we're talking, for example, about narcotics, this threat that could be felt in the distant corners of the world.
Excellency, during the course of this conversation, we have talked a lot about the things that are quite concerning. But taking advantage of your presence in this program, I would also want to hear things that sound very good from the prospects of peace and prosperity. As you were telling me, you have been in Pakistan in and out since quite long now. You must have identified areas where the two nations can come further together, where there are immense opportunities of collaboration yet untapped. Tell us more about the areas where the two countries see eye to eye with and can come even more closer.
I think that we got vast potential in almost every area. We do know that you have excellent textiles. You got surgical instruments. You got leather products. You got some agricultural products, and this trade is gaining momentum. So I'm talking about trade interaction. We also have a huge potential in science and technology. Let us say that I know that you have many outstanding scientists which could share their expertise and vice versa. And as far as I understand, this will be one of the topics during the next highest level interaction. So coming back to your question, in almost every area we have huge potential, untapped potential.
And if Afghanistan settled down, are you also hopeful about the provision of gas? Because gas has become a major problem for Pakistan. Our industry is going down, our domestic infrastructure. I'm sure
that there will be a lot of mutually beneficial infrastructural trans-regional projects, whether it's transport or energy. I'm sure of that.
Thank you very much, Excellency Danilia Ganich, for being a guest in my program. This was a very timely interview. We have come to know a lot of things. We have explored a lot of Russian narrative from your side, and I'm sure this is very exciting for our viewers as well, who will be watching this interview just on the brinks of the visit of the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Thank you for having me, and Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you very much, Excellency Danilia Ganich, for being a guest in my program today. Ladies and gentlemen, as His Excellency Danilia Ganich said in this interaction, that diplomacy is a two-way traffic. Both the countries, Pakistan and Russia, have started driving in this two-way lane at a faster pace. Both the countries have a great potential, as said by His Excellency in his conversation. And venues like investment and trade are low-hanging fruits that the leadership of the two countries plan to ripe during the course of this visit. We'll join you next week with another program. And until then, Allah Hafiz.